keep that in their budget, as an example. And nowadays, the trend is to move forward, not stand still or retreat. And here we have all this technology now, AI and all this other stuff, and it appears that we're satisfied to roll back the clock. I mean, people of Kronenwetter deserve better. I think we have to learn how to maintain a better relationship with our neighbors. It seems like we have one heck of a time adjusting, finding a way to adjust. We seem to think we have all the positive stuff, and you start chipping away at that contract, and there's more hatchet cutting there. It's just a normal contract. It seems awful berating on our part that we have so much of a problem in trying to work things out with our neighbors. I mean, I think we need some adjustments in our village with overall cooperative effect. All our other neighbors around us, they seem to get along and be able to combine for their services and for the betterment of the community. And the ambulance, again, on our audit, is the only major department that it's straight lined. No big increases. We don't have to worry about depreciation or maintenance or anything. All we had to do was write out the check for $71,000 and paid at the end of the year, and we're done. We don't have to worry about our facilities or staff or all these other issues that we've been kicking around here. And I think we have to just use some common sense. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, item number 4, reports from staff and vendors. Item 4C, Public Works Director report.
All right, thank you. With the frost levels kind of pushing deeper into the ground up until the last couple days here, we had a frozen lateral, and it was last week Tuesday, which the staff itself couldn't take care of with our old machine. So we called Mr. Ruler, and they were there within an hour and a half, and they got it taken care of with a split. It was fantastic. The residents were very happy with the service. It was fantastic. So good partnership with them, really good price, about $800 some odd for the price for that. So I thought that was pretty good for an emergency service call for major plumbing corporation. So very impressed with that. I see we're seeing an uptick in fats, hair, and other influshables going down the drains for the lift stations. So it's wreaking havoc on some of our lift station operations. So we've been having to maintain and upgrade some of the equipment a little quicker than we wanted to. So hence the lift station 2 and 6 upgrades coming up later in the agenda here. So that's pretty much the highlights of my report.
Any questions for Greg? All right, thanks, Rick.
Absolutely.
Moving on to 4D, the Community Development Director report. So Pete's not here tonight, so if you have any questions, gentlemen, jot them down and make sure Pete gets answers to those. Any questions? Any questions?
Well, I'll just have to email them to him, I guess.
You can do that too. All right, thank Pete for his report. Moving on to item number 5. New business, item E, approval of bids for upgrades to lift stations 2 and 6.
So we sent out bids to the public for upgrading lift station 2 and 6, and the low bid that we got back was for $523,535 from Pembroke Companies. Like I said, it's to upgrade lift station 2 and 6, and there's an alternate on there to provide stainless steel piping instead of the traditional cast piping, which will save maintenance down the road. We'll have to go into the pit otherwise and repaint it, and it'll degrade a little quicker. So for the cost of, actually I believe it's $25,000 roughly to make it stainless. So kind of like I said, my director's report with the things that are going down the drain these days and everything having a life cycle of X number of years, these need to be upgraded, especially since the whole village pretty much runs on a lift station with anybody who has sewer systems, so we need to keep up on those things. So we don't want to degrade too much further, otherwise the cost to get somebody in here to fix it for unexpected costs becomes quite high. So hence the bids that we got back here. So the bids are as stated. And so UC approved this last week Tuesday, so we're just looking for the village board to approve or deny tonight.
I'll move we approve the contract with Pembroke Companies not to exceed $523,535.
Second. A motion by Ken, second by Kelly, to award the contract to Pembroke Companies for lift stations 2 and 6 upgrades for a total not to exceed $523,000. Sorry, $523,535. Any discussion?
Is that with the stainless steel?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I
Yes.
was trying to look it up really quick.
Right.
All right, well, good.
So Craig, you or Alex have any additional comments?
Well, this is part of the stage in the system rebuild as you go along. I mean, it's one of the stages, first stage we need to get done. And if we were gonna get at it, and we're gonna have to take it every couple of years, looking at the next stage. As we continually have to rebuild these, our sewer system.
So lift station 2, that'll be 3-phase powered, and the other 6 is still single phase with a
Yeah.
phase converter? Okay.
Because 2 isn't currently, but we figured while we're there, you might as well convert to 3-phase.
That's a good idea.
So there's a
They're bigger pumps than number 2. It's an important lift station. And if, knowing that the system overall is kind of daisy chained, so 2 is one of the more important ones to handle the more eastern part of the village. That would be a bad one to fail.
Right.
So that would probably directly impact, some of the older parts of the, in terms of subdivision neighborhood. I think probably your house specifically.
You know, I'm close, but I know if there's a backup, there's actually a house that's literally almost a mile away that gets flooded. So that's what's really crazy is I know it's like, cause my basement's kind of above ground, so.
What stations did you have trouble with plugging lately?
Lift station 3.
Pardon?
Lift station 3, we're having issues with, because that's a vacuum pump system. So in the
Okay.
future, that's the one we want to bypass and eliminate completely, but that'll be a year or so out.
Yeah, we're looking at a few of these, and just to clarify, I know there was some discussion in the past, because the sewer utility currently has no debt on the books at all. Traditionally, when you're doing utility planning, your capital structure, you usually want to target more of a 50-50 debt versus equity for your capital structure. So eventually we'll be looking at issuing most likely a form of sewer revenue bonds for the sewer utility to finance this and other projects in the future. But we need to get the ball rolling, get the design going on this. It'll take some time to do that, and most likely it's probably wise to issue those types of revenue bonds as a bigger issuance, handle the next couple of years of projects to save on some of your underwriting costs. So that's what we'll probably be looking at. We do believe, based on some of the analysis Elders have provided, that there should be enough revenue in the sewer utility to handle roughly about $2 million of debt for potential capital projects. Should still keep you well below 50% debt ratio in your capital structure. So, I think the future looks bright for the sewer utility. I think in terms of keeping rates stable and doing some long-term planning.
Any other discussion? All right, the motion was to approve. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Chris Vogt,
Yes.
Chris Iden,
Yes.
Ken Tornitzky,
Yes.
Kelly Coyle,
Yes.
Alex Vidvik,
Yes.
Aaron Mishka,
Yes.
Craig Mortensen.
Yes.
All right, motion carried, 7-0. Moving on to 5F, proposed amendments from chapter 520 zoning, article 4, land use descriptions and standards.
Well, since Pete's not here, I guess that'd be you, Chris, right?
You just have to tell me that he talked to you about it. Did he not talk to you about it?
No, well, not lately, not, I wasn't at the last planning commission meeting. But it's pretty simple.
So you can, last meeting we talked about the zero lot line discussions.
This is just like the zero lot line ones off in the Inner Springs development in Weston, off of Birch.
I don't know, I've been kind of looking at this, and I guess I'm not just personally a real big fan of it, because for one thing, you know, I remember when we were at a half-acre lot size, then we dropped down to 20,000 square feet, which it's not much, but I remember we got a lot of flack for that. And now we'd have to go down to 10,000 square feet, and
But that's
are
not
we-
for every lot,
not-
that's not for every lot, that's just for this particular instance, so.
Right, but it could go on to a precedence where, you know, all of a sudden now we have these little tiny lots, and,
Well, the only precedent would be is if you changed it.
right.
I mean, right now, this is only designed for zero lot line housing. So you can't come and say, give me a 10,000 square foot lot for a single family house, because that zoning doesn't exist.
Right, but, you know, to me, it's just kind of an entryway into the market there. And the thing is, I always look at these zero lot lanes, to me, it's kind of a problems waiting to happen. So you got this duplex, you got one side, guy really keeps his place up, next side, guy just trashes it. What do? It like literally turns into a nightmare then, you know, you got.
Because it's not like a condo association.
Right.
Where, you know, you're paying your fees. So if I want to redo my roof, and my neighbor doesn't,
Right. It just seems to be a nightmare for Kronenwetter. So, and to me, it kind of, in the long run, would be more like, turn to a blighted area, you know?
Well, the realtor's pushing this zoning.
So there's a development that's going in.
probably Denyon, because they've been building them like crazy.
Yeah,
In Red Mountain and
right.
then,
Yeah, over by Pleasant, there's that big plan they have for subdivision, and if I remember right, some of those lots are designed for this.
Yeah, it's a 109 lot development, I think 15 or 20 were slated for this. And as we mentioned at the last meeting, you know, the affordability is what makes these more attractive, is that these are able to get, you know, younger families in there and get them, you know, something they can buy a home, start making some equity on it. Yeah, and also we had a public hearing at the last plan commission, and there was no objections to the proposed changes.
I'm all for development. I'm just, like, there's just been some things I've noticed that are different in some of our new developments. So, for example, and I haven't seen it in a ton of others. So like, I mean, I don't mean to call out Denyon, but, so that subdivision north X before it curves, is that Towering Pines? Is that what it's called? So all those houses on the edge of X there, I mean, I summed it up, about half of them, you know, they're bi-levels, so that rear entrance when you leave, you know, you have that sliding glass window right by the kitchen there. They don't even have a deck on there. Denyon charges extra to put a deck on the rear part of the house. Well, half the people haven't gone through to build their own decks, it's not included in a deck, but there's a lot of communities, I mean, like, where are the covenants here that are we enforcing any covenants on this to require properties are maintained to a certain level? I think, quite frankly, I mean, you know, all for people, you know, I'm generally all for private property rights. I'm just like, it doesn't look very good when half of the houses don't even have a deck, and if you open that screen door, it's just you step out, you're just going to your doom. You're just falling down a hole.
Watch
Oh,
that
well,
first step.
You know?
So let's back up for a second. First of all, that subdivision was started by Wausau Homes.
Was it?
So I don't know whose house is what to do. You'd have to go investigate that. Then you'd also have to investigate why there's no deck. Is it something that needs to be done in the spring? Was it that way last summer? I don't
Like
know
4 or
either.
5 years old.
Yeah.
But you have to do some research to find out why they're not like that. just make a blanket statement that they're not doing it because they should be. We don't know the facts.
Well, I'm not saying they were required to at all. I'm just wondering, is there a, I mean, I don't know if it would, I don't know if this is the spot to do it. Yeah, I mean, I was just wondering, because I've seen it in some other spots of the village too, where the house goes up, and I get, we need affordable, I mean.
You know, they're going to the building inspector's criteria, so I mean, they get inspected. So if they're not putting a deck on the house and it violates something in the ordinance, then the building inspector would be on top of that with the homeowner.
But I'm saying, I don't know if our ordinance
Stipulates they have.
stipulates it, so that's why I think people haven't been doing it, they're saving the money to put on a deck, but I think that's something that should probably be looked at.
Right.
Because I think it looks horrible myself, and I think it's bad for the property values if you're in that neighborhood. And I'm worried about that with these, like Chris was saying, I mean, I guess that's what I'm wondering. Because these aren't HOAs, these aren't condo associations. I also want development in the village, by all means, but I just also don't want to basically create a slum 20 years from now.
Especially since we're known as a bedroom community here. Everybody moved out here so they could have a home to property. And now we're gonna go back into city land.
Well, times are changing,
Yeah.
land's becoming harder to come by, so it's.
I just wonder what kind of savings they can offer the customer by this.
It's like $100,000, I think.
That much?
I think those ones on Inner Springs, what was that, about a year ago when they first listed, were going for like $280, $290. They weren't even that big in square footage, so they're still not cheap.
No.
But roughly the same house would be like $350 though, I think, or $375. So.
That's true. I just wanted to point that out, because I don't know if there's anything we can or should do. I mean, I don't know if, I guess, I don't know. People see where I'm kind of going with that. Not barring them, but I just don't.
Along with the blight thing, I mean, that's part of our responsibility too, to some degree. I mean, the guy's got a broken down car parked in his yard. You know, we could do something about that.
Should be enforced.
You know, cut the grass, you know, we pass an ordinance that you ain't have to cut your grass if you want to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're kind of our own worst enemy sometimes in some of this stuff.
Is this quite similar to what Weston is?
Yeah.
I will say that more affordable housing does offer an opportunity for buyers that have been priced out. So like Alex saying, like 280, 290, but we don't have many homes that are going that cheap here. So it does offer an entry point to people that currently don't have access to a home here. So I'll point that out. It also gives a sense of community as well for folks, because you are closer in proximity to your neighbors.
I'll just say, no offense on sense of community, but I used to live in an area where it was tight. It's war. People hate everybody, so I'm serious. I had the best sense of communities when I lived far away from people. Seriously, I mean, I'm just...
It depends on the personality.
Yeah, I think I'm a nice guy, but you know, most people, it's just, they like their space. So I know that, because I was doing some research on it, one of the things they said was sense of community, and I always kind of had to laugh on that, because you get people together, there's always more. So just my 2 cents.
You can't party all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, when I lived in Clover, a decade ago now, but I lived in zero lot line for about 4 years, and honestly, the newer ones, they're, generally speaking, they're pretty nice. I mean, they're larger than you realize, and if if you form a good relationship with your neighbor, I mean, we traded off, who mowed which lawn and all of that, and I just, to me, they are a reasonable way for people to purchase a home, and I guess I would support this effort. If it's something we end up having to come back and look at another, in the future, because it's a thought, we can do that, or future boards can do that, but I don't really see a downside with it. The way those zero lot lines are built, generally they don't, if possible, they try to do them where the driveways face different directions. They don't, you know, so it's not like a traditional duplex. They build it a little different now, and it's an effort so you kind of feel like it's your own, even though there is some crossover.
So what do you do if you do get somebody like trashes their side, don't want their roof fixed, and you can't force them either, it's theirs, you're like.
No, it's theirs.
You know, it seems like.
Yeah. I never had to deal with that, but, yeah, I guess that's, it just kind of take it.
It just seems a mess.
I guess I'd look at it this way, is that if they're spending, which is still not cheap, I'd consider it a starter home opportunity, but that's still a healthy chunk of change. And I'd have a hard time believing somebody's gonna trash that kind of mortgage.
I could take you in Wausau and just show you houses that you're like, why can't they just paint this place?
Yeah.
And they, you know, even the most rundown house, I mean, it's worth some money. Why would you just let it rot to the
No,
ground?
I get it. I absolutely get it.
And there was a guy I knew that had goats, and you know, they eat everything. He just let them literally eat the siding all the way up to what they could eat. And I'm like, what? You know, I mean, you'd be surprised sometimes. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I guess that is what I'm saying. I'm torn on it. Like, I see what Kelly is saying. I see, you know, what Aaron and Kelly are saying, right? You know, people wanting either a starter home or even to downsize. You know, if you're a retired person, you don't want anything for feet or as big of a lawn. But I also see what you're saying, Chris. I just don't know how is there anything we can do in the ordinance to try to prevent, like I said, like what you were saying, a bad neighbor? I don't know. I mean, like a condo, at least they have an association that.
Well, that would be up to the developer to develop covenants that are an HOA or something. You know, that would, you know.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm not a big fan, so.
Yeah, we can get down this.
Oh, no, is it the kind of home that I want to own for 20, 30 years from now?
Yeah.
At the time, it served its purpose.
But 20 to 30 years from now, someone's gonna, you know, right? I mean, when you sell it, right, you still want your value, so you'll sell it.
Yeah.
So you want 5 years and upgrade homes for whatever reason. Someone else, you know, 30 years from now, someone ideally will still be owning that, right? I mean, I don't know.
I lived in a condo for 10 years, which is very similar to what this is, a little bit different. But without it being a condo and sharing that structure with the neighbors, I would have had to rent an apartment. So that gave me an opportunity way back when to have something to gain equity, if you just throw my rent out the window. So that's my experience with some similar.
We need more tax base in the village.
So you guys vote?
I really wish Pete was here to answer some of these questions. I mean, I don't know if this is the spot to do it, and we can't, as a village, right, we can't mandate an association, right? I don't think so. I mean, what can we do to, I guess that's my only question is there anything we as a board can do to try to prevent a future blight long after any of us are dreaming of being on this board?
Those are conversations you have to have with the developer as he brings it to the village and says, I want to build this subdivision, and say, well, what kind of covenants are you putting in, and, you know, what are your plans beyond that besides building multiple properties and selling them?
So I personally don't think it's ready yet, but.
Well, it would have been nice to have these comments last time we brought this to the board for review, because this now has gone to public hearing. So now if there are any changes, it's gonna go back to public hearing.
Real, I guess I'll make a motion not to allow zero lot line residents in the village of Kronenwetter.
I'll second.
A motion by Chris, second by Ken to not approve ordinance 25-03 as presented. Any further discussion?
Like I said, my only input would be, you said brought it up last time. I think we were still new to the topic. I'm not against, I want to facilitate growth in the village, you know, for everybody. I wonder if there's anything that could be done to improve it, and if there's not, then I guess, fine with doing this, and somehow documenting that future boards should consider the covenants and all that good stuff with this, because really, at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily have to be that different than a condo. I personally would rather delay action than totally shoot it down. I just like some input from our community development director.
Well, anything we add to it would need to go all the way back, go through another public hearing. So I guess in its current form, I would see turning it down and then going back and looking at what language can be added to address these concerns to, either for the developer or for the subdivision, on what we could do as a village to make sure that we don't have this issue down the road.
And see, on the other hand, I would recommend no action. Wait for Pete's response to these questions, and then if it requires an ordinance update, then it goes back for public hearing. If there's no changes to the ordinance, it can be done by developer agreement or whatever, and that saves the public hearing 15-day wait again after the commission updates.
So this is not a conditional use. This is for anybody who has a lot, they can put it wherever they want. So if they're in a neighborhood that has nicer houses, they can still do this without any extra approval. Is that right? That's the way I understand it.
That's kind of how I understand it.
So you could have you could be in this really nice neighborhood that would infill a lot, so they could just ram this in here, and now you got, I'm not for that.
Nice neighborhood or not nice neighborhood,
Well, you can't ram it in anywhere. You read the chart on page 17, you'll see that it's only specific zoning that you can do it. You can't do it in R1. It's got to be multifamily residential to do it to start with.
Because this one is, just to clarify, they're saying a 10,000 square foot minimum, but then just in general, multifamily is 5,000 square foot minimum. So what is that? It's 43,560 square feet in an acre?
Yep.
So,
But it falls under the 2F zoning.
oh, it's 2F, okay.
So the combined lots have to be a minimum of 10,000 square feet per unit, so it's still a sizable lot, right? So that's why it meets the 20,000 square feet, because it's two 10,000 square foot lots together. That's the only way you can do it. You can't take a 10,000 foot lot and put a zero lot line house on it. It's got to be two separate properties totaling 20,000 square feet.
I don't know, it seems like you should just have the 20,000 square foot lot and just put a duplex on it and be done with it. That way the person that's the new family that's buying it, so they can't afford much, so they can buy it, rent out the other half, make their payment, and everybody's happy. Instead of having this goofy thing where you I own this half, you own this half, I got a same roof. It just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me.
And I think it's something new to try. I was interested in it because it gives you a more impression of almost like a downtown Chicago, downtown New York, brownstone kind of feel to it.
So,
kind of thing.
do we, Chris, do we want to wait and delay action to wait for this till he's
I'd rather just shoot it down now, then maybe later revisit it, and just, if there was something that somebody wants to look at, and personally.
To me, I don't see it, And that's why I'm torn. I would agree with, yes, I agree with what you're saying, Chris, and I agree with what you're saying, Chris, and you know, I'm kind of in between, like, if there's a way to make it kind of like a I mean, the advantage, right, is you own the lot with this, and you're not, there's a party wall in between, so each of them get separate electric and gas services. That's another big difference. There's pluses and minuses to that. Minuses being you got all this gas, water, electric infrastructure in everyone's backyard, so it's kind of a nightmare if you have to make any edits. It's also an issue for the fire department because you don't have a main disconnect to your building anymore. You got 4 of them, same deal, even though they're considered separate units. I mean, you know, when one unit's on fire, next door is still in danger. It's not like, you know, I guess a house in a traditional area. So I just know there's some oddities that I wish we could reconcile. I don't necessarily want to shoot down any new ideas or new developments. You know, we need growth desperately in our village, I think. But I just, you know, if there's a way we can improve this for long term, that's what I would like to see before I would vote yes on it.
So just to clarify, this came about because a developer requested it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, then,
So I guess with the discussion about, what you guys are bringing up about the roof and that kind of thing, and the blight, whatever, that was, nobody ever talked about any of that stuff, so it wasn't a question that nobody ever asked.
okay. All right.
Truthfully, I didn't necessarily think of that right away until, you know, a couple days ago. You know, reading the packet, thinking of some other developments I've seen, at least from an electric utility planning standpoint. You know, we didn't ask any of those other questions. I just cared about job stuff in the past.
All right, so the motion is not to approve. Any other discussion? Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Chris Wolf,
No.
Chris Iden.
Yes.
Ken Troneski,
Yes.
Kelly Coyle,
Yes.
Alex Vedek,
Yes.
Aaron Mishka,
No,
Craig Mortensen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Didn't pass. Let's move on into item G, consent agenda.
I mean, you know, it didn't pass, but can we
Nope.
can't make a motion to refer
No,
it?
they passed not to approve. The motion was not to approve,
Right,
so it's not approved.
okay.
So we're on to the next thing.
I assume you can make it, okay.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Ken and Chris to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 7, previous meeting minutes. Thank the ABC for their November 7th minutes. Utility Committee from November 12th, thanks for their minutes. Utility Committee, December 3rd minutes, thank you. And Planning Commission, January 8th minutes. Thank you. So Alex, you said you want a reconsideration on item F?
I think what I was saying is that I just want to have Pete review the ordinance and potentially discuss it with Plan Commission if there's any way to improve it. I mean, I'd be,
It's either right, the motion would have been to reconsider or delay action. Right now it would be reconsider, change the motion to change it to delay action. But since the motion was not to approve, then I don't know the other way around unless it's a reconsideration.
okay,
Since you voted yes for it, you can reconsider it.
so I move to reconsider item F.
Second.
All right, a motion by Alex, second by Kelly to reconsider item F.
Yep, I mean, I just want to add that extra piece, basically just to refer it to Pete. I mean, guess I don't see the harm in having Pete see what all we can do with this.
Get his opinion.
So we're not just outright saying to a developer, we will never consider doing something like this. I just wanna,
Well, that's what we just did.
yeah, but that's why I want to reconsider the motion, is I don't want to send a very strong message that we will never, ever consider it. 'Cause I mean, I think you can make it, I just think you can make it better. I don't think you have to kill it.
Well, I think they kind of will probably understand that from our discussion. You know, would you looking to make the same motion with an amendment?
Well, I want the plan commission and Pete to see what can be done that,
Modify it, or put some regulations to it.
Well, that could be an item for next agenda then.
Wait a minute.
I would think would be more streamlined.
By voting it down, wouldn't it by default go back to Pete? And he would have to rewrite it, reinforce it, however,
He could always
and bring it back to the planning and.
Could be bad, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it would, by nature, it's coming back at some future date. So I don't know that, I'm kind of thinking about it, I don't know that.
okay, so I mean, if it can come back at a future date, you know, different form, however it might look like, whether it's additional language or, you know, I don't know if a policy is, basically documenting this, the considerations that need to be accounted for by the board on approving this type of development. Because as we know, things get forgotten about, especially if it's a couple years down the line. I mean, we forget about, you know, I'm guilty of it too. I mean, we forget about stuff from a couple months ago. I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying, is I'm trying to keep an open mind with it, and I don't wanna end up with, you know, basically a cruddy development or cruddy construction that will hurt property values in the village.
Okay,
All right, so,
so are you withdrawing the
Yeah, I
motion
mean,
to reconsider that?
does the board agree that it can do that? And then, if so, then I withdraw my motion.
all right. Very well, okay. We're all set then. All right, item number 8, closed session. Consideration of motion of meeting in the closed session pursuant to West Act 9351C for consideration of promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation to have any public employee or whichever line is jurisdiction or responsibility to it, hiring the village clerk.
Make a motion to go to closed session.
Second.
A motion by Kelly, second by Alex, to convene a closed session for discussion, or no, call roll please.
Chris Bolton. Chris Iden.
Yes.
Ken Troneski.
Yes.
Kelly Coyle.
Yes.
Alex Vidvik.
Yes.
Aaron Mishka.
Yes.
Craig Mortensen.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Second.
All right, Alex made a motion, Aaron made a second to continue recruiting members for village clerk. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11, consideration of items for future agendas.
I just wanted to clarify, Cliff did take up the chicken, or, I can't remember if we agreed, we didn't.
Yes.
Do we?
Okay, so, yeah,
Yeah, the chicken,
The what? The chicken?
yeah.
Lee's brought in.
Anything else? All right, item number 12.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alex, second by Ken, to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.